Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Enlightened Entrepreneurs. Today's interview is sponsored by World Outsourcing Solutions, which is a company that specializes in providing outsourcing services to business owners around the world, beginning here in England. Today, I'm very, very excited to be talking to a gentleman all the way from Australia who's been in the industry for a long, long time. Now, we have entitled this interview, How to Fast Track Your Business Growth to Set It Up to Run on Autopilot. I think you're going to this interview very, very useful because Tim has been in the helping business owners for years. In fact, let me read to you his bio. Tim's experience of training business owners is based on owning 7 business across 30 years, and he's been applying all this information, in many different businesses and helping businesses from different industries to really fast track their businesses to run on autopilot. And today you're going to be finding that useful. And in fact, I'll let Tim tell you a bit about his story when we get started. But while you are there, if you've got any questions, please send us emails at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com, and we will be able to put you in touch with Tim. Now, Tim, thank you so much for joining us for the interview today.
Thanks, Yukai. I really appreciate the opportunity to contribute to small business owners.
Very well, and really appreciate you taking time. I know it's 9 p.m. your time there to talk to us here.
Yeah, that's it. That's the world.
Yes, incredible. Now, to get us started, Tim, would you share a bit about your background so business owners can relate to you and understand where you're coming from?
Sure. Look, I started out in my first business with a couple of partners at age 20. One of those was an entrepreneur, and it really opened my eyes to how he thought about business. And as a silent partner, within a couple of years, he wanted to move on to other ventures, so I bought him out. And I struggled on probably for the next 3 or 5 years. And then in about 1990, I was probably about age 27, I attended a workshop with Michael Gerber, who wrote the book, The E-Myth Revisited. Some of the listeners may know about that one. And that really opened my eyes. It was just an extraordinary experience to hear Michael Gerber talking about working on your business to work your way out of your business and the need for systems and all that sort of subject. And the weekend, it just really expanded my mind, and I got very excited by that and thought I needed to learn a lot more about business. I felt like I didn't know anything about business after going to that workshop, and that's sort of when my learning journey began. The next workshop I went to was Jay Abraham, the highest paid marketer in the world, probably all the way through the 1980s and 1990s. And he talked about strategies that very few people even still talk about much today, like proactive referral systems, strategic alliances, host beneficiaries. And I find those three strategies, some of my best strategies, and I find very few people actually know much about it. You can still use them today. So that was an incredible experience as well. And the outcome of that was learning how to sell more with higher prices than my competitors. And that's how you start making extreme profits in business. Any business, doesn't matter what it is, what sort of service or manufacturing business you are, that really puts a lot of cash in your bank and then funds the growth of your business and onto other things. So that's sort of where it all began for me. I used the business I was in at the time, which is a tree surgery business. You're probably familiar with that. And that was my mule, if you like. I tested strategies. I raised prices. I got referrals kicking in really, really solidly. I was growing a business really fast by purely referrals from a proactive referral system. All sorts of exciting things were happening, but then I thought I need something else to do with all this knowledge, all this skills I'd learned about business, and I got invited into the business coaching industry in 1997. And that's when it got exciting, because then I got to apply the things that I had in my head and experience and started to see some awesome results with clients. One of my earliest clients increased his sales by $60,000 per month within 2 months of me talking to them. The first month we actually didn't talk about strategies. The second month we did. So, but the problem was that it was what I call skyrocket growth, because the business took off like a rocket. But then if you sell $60,000 more, you've got to be able to do $60,000 worth of more work, which means you need to hire about 3 or 4 people like instantly. And that's when I realized a lot of businesses are not ready for really rapid growth. In fact, very, very few businesses are ready for rapid growth, as in grow by 50% or 300% within 1 or 3 or 5 months. So it put me into a mode of trying to learn more about the subject of management and managing the growth of the business. And that's where my focus started to become stronger, if you like.
Incredible. And you've gone on to help many other businesses. I was the other time, and you are helping businesses from all over the world now experience such growth and how to manage such growth.
Yeah, that's it. Like I like the concept of J-curve growth. J-curve growth means nothing happens for 1 or 2 or 3 months, ideally 3 or 4, and then it starts to really accelerate really, really fast. And that's sort of the model I use now. When people say I want more customers, I say, well, how many more can you handle? Most people, very few people can give me an exact figure, like 10 per week or 10 per month, or how many is that you want more of. So I found that planning is how you really accelerate growth. And by working with all those business owners one-on-one, I've kept seeing the exactly same problems coming up all the time. And it's almost got a bit sick of it. It's like, oh yeah, I know your problems. I've heard them all before. And that kept coming up a lot. People kept telling me the same problems over and over and over, even though we're in completely unrelated industry, the same things kept coming up all the time.
Incredible. And you now have developed a system that can help business owners, address those things even before they actually begin to surface in their businesses.
That's right. Well, and I found there was 4 common challenges. There are a lot of others, obviously, but the 4 common ones were relating to employees. How do you find good attitude ones? How do you get them to work as hard as you? How do you get them to work when you're not there at all? That's one of them. The second one would be lack of time. Very few business owners have lots of spare time, a day or 2 in their week. They just hardly got any time at all. The third one is lack of cash, not enough cash in the bank to pay overheads or fund the growth of the business. And generally the fourth one is just knowing how to grow their business. So those 4 challenges kept coming up all the time. So instead of talking to business owners one-on-one, I just systemize those as solutions that you can drop into every business, because those same challenges have the same solution no matter what the industry is. That's what I found.
I know our business owners will be very interested in finding more about those 4 things. We'll get into that shortly. What I love about the story you've shared with us up to this point really is you had 2 influential business coach or mentors in your life. How did you go about identify who you wanted to learn from?
I think it was an accident that I fell into a Michael Gerber workshop. I just happened to see it somewhere and thought, yeah, what the heck, let's just go along. That sounds like something different. Going to a business workshop was not something I'd ever done before. And back in 1990, it wasn't like they were running everywhere all the time and you didn't have internet, all that sort of thing. So that was one. And that was just when I went, okay, I got to keep my eyes open for this whole subject of learning something to do with business. And Jay Abraham was promoting himself all over Australia at the time, and that was very easy to see his marketing out there in the marketplace. So those 2, that's sort of where it all began, I suppose. That just opened my eyes to so many things, and it puts a lot of cash in your bank. So yeah, it was just being open. I'm like, ever since then, I've spent about $120,000 on my own education ever since 1990. I just keep learning all the time. Probably spent about $20,000 in the last 3 or 4 years just learning online marketing from the best people I can find in the world. I think it's essential to learn in business. I can't believe business owners spend so little on learning. They outsource, but they're not actually learning. So I think it's a great lesson to start thinking, I got to learn from experts, not just pay someone to do it for me, like recruitment or marketing. I think you got to learn it yourself. I think that's essential.
Absolutely. And what I really like about what you just said there, and I hope our audience are listening to this, is you put so much value in learning, and I think as a business owner, you really need to become a master learner. One of my mentors said the second important ingredient in success is being attentive and learning and see what is going on, and you won't miss, you will succeed. If you were talking to a business owner who's been running for maybe the last 3 years, what would you say to them about the importance of having a mentor?
I think you're mad if you don't. I think you should have different ones at different levels, depending on where you're at. I think the most essential, basic, fundamental, most valuable skill you can have in business is learning how to sell. And it's not something that's natural. It's something you need to be trained on, because what people think is selling is being pushy and aggressive and annoying, when that's the complete opposite of what I teach in selling, for example. And that, when I meet business owners that are just starting out, I say to them, go and get sales training. It might cost you $500, but it'll be the best money you spend, because you can get 10 times that back in the next 1 to 6 months. And it's the best investment you'll probably ever make on anything you're going to pay money for. So that's an example. One thing I think is absolutely hugely beneficial to spend some money on when you're first starting in business, or if you've been in business 10 or 20 years, get some sales training under your belt, and don't just do it once and think I've done that. You don't just do something once. It's something you get refreshed on once a year or every couple of years. So yeah, definitely. I think mentoring is, I just can't believe that business owners don't value it and don't do it. Like, I scrape together money sometimes to pay for education in business. That's what I did over the years, because I think, how can you not value a shortcut that can save you years of trying to figure out how to do something yourself? The value of that is just enormous, just to pay a mentor to get shortcut that process.
Incredible. I love the word there, shortcut. It really is shortcut. I remember the first time I had the training, I paid for business mastery with Robin. It's not exactly cheap,
Yeah.
But when I came back, literally, my business grew tenfold, because the things I discovered from a 4-day event, which he did here in some of them I had them, but I didn't know how to implement them. But the business master, what I did, we covered sales, and I came back a lot of those. The next 6 months, 7 months, took off. There were times when I literally, I have to stop a little bit, and otherwise I'm growing too fast. So, what you say about continuous learning, absolutely, for any business owner, to get to their goals fast. So, how do you go about choosing the people to learn?
Sorry, Yikai, you just dropped out a bit there. Could you repeat that?
How do you go about choosing the people to learn from, or a mentor, or a coach, or somebody to work with?
I figured out there are 5 levels of learning that you go through on any subject. It's a book that's on my website that I talk about. I also teach it in sales and teach it in management and leadership. And I'm looking for people that are not at the what I call preaching stage or justification stage, which is I know everything, let me tell you how much I know. I'm looking for people at the next phase, what I call quiet confidence. And quiet confident people don't say much. They don't have to preach. You ask them a question, they don't air their knowledge and tell you how smart they are. They just help you with where you're at right now. And I've found that those people are often not in the limelight, but they are the best people you can learn from ever, because they feel themselves that there is infinite to learn, whereas people that are in that justification phase or preaching mode, they think that they know everything there is to learn. And there's a very big difference between the two. And it's like they have humility when they move to that next phase. That's the kind of people I look for. And they're quietly confident. They don't talk that much. They answer questions sincerely. They value people on their own learning curve, and they help them with where they're at. They're not for everyone, I've found, but sometimes a lot of people think they're not that smart because they don't talk much, but I find them the opposite. So that's what I use, and I figured that out a long time ago, and I've had some absolutely brilliant mentors. I've had 4 entrepreneurial business partners. They've been like that as well. So I think it's important, like you say, how do you find those people that are great at what they do? And they don't try and impress you. They try and impress upon you. They don't try to make out you're stupid. They try to help you with where you're at. And I think that's a critical thing, to find those mentors at that level.
Now, let me take you back to those early days of Russ. Maybe you can paint a picture that people can follow How did you actually go about to get your first client? Especially a new project of how to fast track businesses onto Autopilot.
Sorry, you're just dropping out a bit, mate. When you said get your first client, but then I heard something about Autopilot.
Going back to how you got started, can we just explore that for a moment?
When I got started in the business coaching industry, I'd already learned a heck of a lot about marketing. And like, there's just so many different ways that you can market something, from zero cost marketing, I call it, to print media, all that sort of thing. So I just started writing letters to business owners, and it was all in the wording. And I found that my belief was that 2% response I've been told was good from a letter. So therefore I'd write about 30 or 40 letters. And I figured that if I sent out 30 letters, then if I got one response, that would be my 3%. So therefore I was probably onto something good. Now, most marketers would probably cringe when they hear that. They probably say you need to send 500 letters or 1,000 letters, but I've used a lot lower numbers than most people and had some extreme success from it. And I found that when I got the recipe right, I sent out 30 letters, and I actually got 3 or 4 people calling me. So I went, okay, I think I've got a good letter now. And that's where it began. I found that something very valuable, low key, not salesy, if you like, that just warm people up to make them want to talk to you. That's all I needed. And then once I talked to them, they started to say, hey, you sound like you know what you're talking about. Maybe we could do some business together. So it was as simple as that. And sending letters out to Chamber of Commerce members, I found was very, very good. The Chamber of Commerce tends to have a little bit better quality of business owners than just your Joe Blogs out there. They're people that want to learn and network and meet other people and things like that. So that's how I started, and I found it extremely successful for me.
Incredible. And the lesson there for you as a business owner, if you're listening, is, start right where you are and follow the steps that Tim is sharing here. Who knows, that same pattern could work for you. And now, Tim, how are you marketing your services at this point?
It's a combination of different things. LinkedIn I find to be very good. I still use what's called host beneficiaries and strategic alliances. So a lot of people that think they're my competitor, I can find an ability to network with them and show them the win-win. Because where you overlap with people's services, there's a win-win. A lot of people see them as competitors. So I get a lot of clients from accounting firms. Accounting firms are very cautious, very skeptical of what it is that I do. And then when they sit down with me and have a talk, they see that I'm not like anyone they've ever met, because I've systematized what it is that I do, and it's all modularized, and I get phenomenal results. So accountants often refer a lot of clients to me, and I call that a zero cost marketing strategy because it costs me nothing. And I've generated over $1 million in sales the last 5-6 years just from that one strategy alone. It cost me nothing. Like I say, they invite their clients to a seminar, they're using my marketing, and then I turn up for a seminar and I get clients at the back end of that, and it cost me nothing. They promote it to their database. So that's about my best strategy, and I love teaching that to other business owners. It doesn't work for every business, but it can work extremely well for a lot. So that's number one, that LinkedIn. I dabble a little bit on Facebook, and I generally get a lot of referrals because I get awesome results, and I get raving fans, not just happy customers, but raving fans that kind of pester their clients and their friends to say, hey, you need to talk to Tim, you need to have a chat to him. So that's the primary ones that I use at the moment.
Incredible. We use LinkedIn a lot. It's amazing how the type and the quality of people that you meet there, and we've had some tremendous results. And also referral. The key thing I've discovered in doing referral, or what we do, is to do extremely good job that it becomes impossible for people not to recommend you or recommend other people to your business.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Tim, I would like to take you to those 4 things that we started talking about right at the beginning, and I'm sure a business owner would love to know about those things. Business with, and how you figure out the solution for those ones. And can we start with employees?
Sure. Look, employees, they can make or break your business. And when you first start out in business and you hire your first employee, you think you got a good one. It's not until you have 3 or 5, probably more like 5, where you start to realize what good actually is by definition, which is sheer experience. So, and I've seen exactly the same thing happen with franchises, where a franchisor starts selling franchise. I think they've got this awesome franchisee and they're terrible. When they've had 5, then they realize that in hindsight. And that's just, sometimes that's the experience you got to go through. I can definitely improve in that area. And I find the biggest thing is business owners, everything about business is people. If you type the word business online in Google and click on images, all you'll see is people just about. Business is it's all about people. It's like 100% people. If you're going to grow a business, then go and study psychology and get better at understanding people. And yet it's the least developed skill I find in business there is. So I had terrible people skills. I hired a guy that I even got warned, don't hire him. He's very rough around the edges. I ignored them. And 3 months later, he stole all my equipment, which I found out 2 months later, and nearly put me out of business because stupid me didn't know that was his potential. So now I like to teach business owners what trustworthy people look like, and you can identify them when you ask certain questions when they ring up, and you deselect them. And you got one job, you got to have a way of deselecting all the ones that are poor quality and end up with someone who is great. And you hire on attitude first. Most people's ad for recruitment looks like they're hiring someone that has to be super experienced, qualified, and all that, and they de-emphasize attitude, and you get one or the other. So I tend to say hire an attitude, because if you're going to put someone off, it'll be for attitude. It won't be for a lack of experience typically. So people, it comes down to having the people skills to identify those great attitude people, and they're people that have a willingness to engage you in subjects outside of the norm, if you like. They also are willing to learn and keen to learn and say things like that. I'm keen to learn. I want to learn. I'll come in early. I'll stay back late. I just want to learn so I can do the job better. So your hiring people is where it all begins. If you haven't got a great person with a great attitude to begin with, I don't think you can really change it. So I think that's a critical skill to identify that when you're hiring people. And then when you hire an attitude, you don't ever put them off. They're just awesome. For 3-5 years. And that's what my clients tell me. Tim, that guy I hired 2 years ago, do you remember that? Yes. He's awesome. Still, 2 years later, they're still saying the same words they said when they first hired them. And that transforms businesses by getting really good people around them. But you got to learn the skill of what is a good person. It's a skill that you learn, or in my training, I teach it to you, give you a full system and say, here's a checklist, use that. So that, I think, is a critical skill. That you got to know what a good attitude person is when you meet them before you hire them. Otherwise, it can cost you huge amounts of money to hire a bad apple. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Experience, if you hire the wrong person, really you would, having managed over 8, more than that now, I know for a fact that, you just need to have that knack. It's like this person potentially can be good, and give them small tasks and test their attitude. Not very obviously, but just get what they give you while you're doing. When you give them the task, they sit in time. How do they respond? How do they respond to you in a non-threatening environment? So really, really critical. One of the things I hear a lot of people ask is about how do you deal with an employee who was great in the beginning before familiarity sets in, but then later on, maybe after a year and a half into the business, their enthusiasm goes down. They no longer bring the work, or return the work as expected, and generally the attitude goes down. How do you get them back to that place?
That's that's a leadership subject. That's a huge subject that if we had an hour or two, I'd really go into a lot of depth. But the short version is that it's understanding what inherently motivates people, and one of them is feedback. And the best way to set up a feedback loop in a business where you do work and then you see the outcome is like comparing business to sport. Like, how many soccer teams actually have a game where there's no score? Everyone likes scores. Everyone likes to know how many tackles did I do, how many great passes did I do, how many bad passes did I do. That's a feedback loop. But if you look at the average business has got almost no feedback loops at all. And if you compare a business to a sport is a better structured organization for performance than what nearly every business is. So to me, setting up a feedback loop where every employee has some numbers that they're seeing on a regular basis, like weekly or monthly, motivates people better than anything you can do. And it also creates accountability, and that's how you can set businesses up to run on autopilot. You've got to have numbers for every person to see the result of their own work. It's like, see the fruits of your labor. If you don't do that, people just burn out. Like in business owners burn out because they just don't see the numbers. They don't see progress. They're just tired. They just get tired. They just get burn out because they don't see progress. So lack of progress is what really burns anyone out over time. So having some numbers set up in the business so that everyone gets together once a week and reviews those numbers, just like a professional football team. Like they play a game and then they go and train, then they talk about the numbers and talk about what to improve on. Well, to me, it's exactly the same in the business. You stop work once a week, you review the performance of everyone with numbers, and then you discuss what improvements need to happen, and away you go. And that's just basic stuff that you do in every sporting team, yet businesses don't do it. And that's an example where you'll find people very, very motivated. And there are 5 stages of team building I talk about in my training, and the 5th stage is where your employees start saying to you, can you go and find something else to do, boss? Like buy another business or take a holiday, because we actually work better without you. And they're telling the truth. That's what I call the 5th stage of team building. It takes about 6 months to get there, but that's how well you can build a team to that level. So, and numbers are going into weekly team meetings where everyone's getting together and having a chat and reviewing their numbers. That's the ultimate form of motivation there is.
Incredible. I love the way you're explaining this, a whole complicated subject around to very basic, that any business owner can understand. If, for example, it's a service business, how can they set up those numbers?
That's, again, a big subject, but I'll give you the short version. All right. So in business, If you think of a business like a 3-legged stool, and each leg represents 3 functions of the business. The 3 functions of a business is, first of all, it's got to generate sales. It's got to get sales. So that's your generate leads, have a conversion rate, and then you get paying customers. So that's the first thing. That's one of the legs. The second leg is production, which is doing the work. That's the service work. The technician is doing the work. The third leg is getting paid for the work, getting the cash in the bank as a result of doing the work. Now, if you've got a $500,000 business, then if you divide that by 50 weeks, ideally you should see about $10,000 leg length, if you like. So it's like saying, well, if I'm turning over $500,000, did I see $10,000 in sales acceptances this week in my service business? That's the first question you ask. And then you measure that. The second question you ask is, what value of work have I produced in the week? That's not finished. That's just activity as far as chargeable actual time if you were charging by the hour. So then you measure that and see if it was 10,000. Then you say, well, I got to get paid for the work. Did $10,000 go into my bank account every week? And measuring those 3 every week, I call business management. And if you're not measuring those 3 every week, then you're not really managing your business, and you're probably stressed because you either got too much work, not enough work, or not enough cash in the bank. They're the 3 major stresses in business. So we've got to measure those 3 legs, and there's a lot more detail on this than what I'm summarizing here, but there's other things apart from the dollar value, but that's when you're starting to manage a business, and that's every single service business really needs to do that. And then you're generating numbers where you're involving everyone that you employ. Then you've got a weekly team meeting based on those numbers.
Outstanding. Let's move on to the next one. And I'm sure business owners are finding tremendous value in that. And in a few minutes, we will be giving a website where you can connect with Tim for more information on these subjects which we are covering. Tim, back to you. The other subject which business owners struggle with is lack of time. Can we explore that moment?
Time is a symptom of other challenges. That's how I see it. The problem is a lot of people talk about time management. It's not about management. It's about priorities. You've only got so many hours in the week. I've found that when I work with business owners, I get them very, very clear of the priorities, and then fantastic, awesome things come. I've had business owners that were working 80 hours a week with 5 employees and no time whatsoever personally. And in 10 months, they stopped work. 10 months, they stopped work completely and stepped out of their business, and it was running on autopilot, because all I did was get them really clear of the priorities that were going to make a difference. So that's one thing. It's about priorities. It's not about trying to manage your time. You can't put 16 hours into an 8-hour day. So you can't manage time, but you can certainly prioritize and make a very big difference to it very, very quickly. So that's one thing. Another thing is get your cash in the bank up high enough to pay someone to free up your own time. That's the best solution there is to get your cash levels up high enough to be able to afford to pay someone and then free up your time. That's the best.
Beautiful. Looking at the priorities in any business owner, what should they prioritize, if those early years of a business?
The simple way I look at it is you got three levels of priority. You got a must do, which is I must do this today. So you start your day with what are my must do's, what am I important to do, and then what am I do if I have time things. And that's how you start every day. And at the end of the day, you have a look and see if you actually did your must do's, and if you didn't, you ask yourself a reasonable or an unreasonable question: why the hell didn't I do what I must do today, and start doing something about it. But if you prioritize your day with your must do's, important to do, and do if you have time, you'll start making a lot of progress quick. But part of your must do's is to understand what must I do today that will make a long-term difference to my business. And most people aren't asking that question. They're doing micro must do tasks. Oh, I've got to ring that customer. Oh, I've got to pay that bill. That's crisis. That's not long-term benefit. We've got to start making some long-term benefit decisions as your must do's. And then if you start doing some, over time you'll build and you accelerate. And that's what I think is a critical thing to do. Get really clear what's going to make a very big difference long term. That's not a band-aid or quick fix today. And most people, what they call a must do, I think is important. It's like, oh, I must send that quote through to that person. No, that's an important to do. I don't think that's a must do. Must do is work on your business today to make a difference. That's a must do. And if it's half an hour, if it's an hour, if it's 3 hours, if it's 4 hours, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. But you must work on your business every day. Otherwise, you're one of those insane business owners that everyone loves to quote that saying. Definition of insanity is to keep doing what you're doing and expecting a different result. Well, that means that 90% of business owners are insane. They're not doing anything different. They're doing exactly what the same as what they did. So there's a lot of insane people running around this planet by that definition. So that's what I do. I wake people up and say, get clear of your priorities, start making a difference, because in a month you get exactly the same problem unless you do it today. What are you going to do different today? Because success begins today, not next month, not next year, not when you got time. You're not going to find time. You don't find time. You're going to make time with what you've got. You've got as much time as what I have. Get clear of your priorities and you'll make a very big difference really quick.
Outstanding. Outstanding. And let's talk about the lack of cash, which I know for a fact business owners talk about all the time. How do you talk to that in that situation?
Best way to increase cash, well, there's numerous ways, but best one is get extremely good at selling and marketing. And that's something you got to learn yourself. You can't outsource that. You got to learn it yourself, because if you can put your price up 20 or 30 or 40% and sell more, you've solved your cash flow problem. The problem with business owners is when they start, they tend to go cheap because they don't have any overheads and they see that they can get a slice of the market by being cheap. But after a year or 2 or 3 of doing that, you realize you're not making any money. And then you try to get your prices up, and then you start losing customers because you never learned how to sell. All you did was come out with a marketing strategy that gave you a little bit of a slice of the pie. Because yes, there are people that will be fooled into buying cheap, but cheap goes with nasty. So it's learning how to sell at a higher price is a critical skill, and that's called defining your USP, or unique selling proposition, as they say. And that's something that I've done extremely well myself now, but I had no idea about years ago. But the good thing was that I learned how to sell, and then I taught people how to sell. And then by teaching people how to sell in service businesses, I'm especially talking about, I work with like 1,000 of them. I'd teach them how to put their price up and sell more after a price rise, which everyone says is impossible, but it's just something you can learn how to do. And that puts more cash in your bank faster than anything else you can really do. Nothing beats raising your prices 20, 30, 40% and maintaining or increasing sales after you do it.
Incredible. I'm assuming that in your training program, you do cover this very important subject of learning how to sell. Absolutely.
It's something I do for, I've met people that are turning over 40,000. I say, you need to do my sales training. It doesn't matter what size turnover you are. I had an engineering company turning over about 600,000 a month. And I said, have you guys ever had sales training? Got 8 salespeople? No. Good. Come to my sales training then. And they did $1 million the next month. So they added $400,000 to the sales in 1 month from bringing 8 people to a 1-day training. So it doesn't matter what size business you are, you need sales training. So I think it's absolutely essential you get some extremely good sales training, and there's some pushy, aggressive, obnoxious, lack of integrity selling skills out there that I can't stand. I teach selling with integrity, so that way people love you whether they buy from you or not, and that's what I mean by integrity. And then you love selling because you really enjoy who you're being. It's like an expression of your values to contribute to other people's lives, and that's how people feel. They feel like you're seriously trying to help them, and so they throw money at you. In fact, they find reasons to come back and spend more money at you because it just works so well.
In situation, in their lives a lot more better than before they met you.
Well, that's it, and I'm trying to make business owners happier.
Absolutely, absolutely. And by the way, one of those
problems at a very deep level. That's the aim of what I do. Yeah.
Beautiful. One of those, maybe the last thing here on what we were talking about is knowing how to grow your critical thing that all business owners tend to come into. How do you advise business owners who are at that stage? They are stagnant.
Stagnant means a lot of time what do they say? You grow to your level of competency. And I've met business owners that got to $2 million turnover and couldn't get through it. So you exhaust your own knowledge to grow a business at some level, and that's when it's time to get a mentor in and take you to a whole new level. And the things that I train business owners on, I got a 7-month course. It's one of the things that I do, or that's the premier thing that I do. And at the outcome of that, I can follow those same clients up 3-4 years later, and their businesses are offering adding $1 million or multiple $1 million in sales, and they're taking 2 months off at the same time while their business is growing without them. So, but they're still looking at the content I gave them from 3 or 4 or 5 years ago because it's relevant, and they keep on learning and evolving themselves. And that's the key. It's business growth is by self-growth, if you like, personal growth, looking in the mirror and seeing your own limiting beliefs and your mindsets and learning about it and reading books. And that's what I like to instill the passion for learning and reading. And I've had people tell me it's changed their whole relationship, their whole life, because they started reading some books that I recommend and things like that. And they weren't books on business, but their business improves as their mindset improves just from getting into some things like personal growth. So to me, it's an essential part of growing your business is to grow yourself, grow your mind, expand your mind, read books.
Incredible. Incredible. As we are coming toward the end of our time together, I know business owners will be very interested in finding more of maybe 1 or 2 programs that you have that can help them to do that. Can we talk about that for a moment?
Sure. As I've said at the start, like I kept finding the business owners had the similar challenges. So they tend to have a time problem, as we talked about, a staff problem, as we talked about, cash flow problem, growing their business problem. So I've systemized that into a 7-month course, and now I train people on how to implement ready-to-use strategies and systems. So instead of saying you need to measure those 3 legs that we talked about, go and figure out how to measure it. I'll say here's some measuring tools. Watch this video that'll tell you how to customize it, and in 5 or 10 minutes you'll know how, and then you start using the tools, and I'll review your numbers with you, and then look at the strategies that you need that are instantly going to start increasing profits in your business. So it's a small group training program. It runs over about 7 months. We do half a day a fortnight, and it's, even though it's a small group, there's still one-on-one reviews of profit and loss statements and cost of sales and gross margins and setting targets and looking at what the 50 strategies are you need to grow your specific business. All that is part of the one-on-one component of it. But by doing it in small groups, it means that it's far more affordable. And that's what I love. I love pulling the price of what some coaches in Australia are charging $48,000 for what I don't even do one-on-one for $48,000, let alone if I wanted to. That's about what my skills would command if I wanted to. I have no interest in that. I make my training extremely affordable because I can put a small group together and train people on ready to implement systems. They're done. They're ready. Just got to drop them in and train them. So that's my premier training. I call that the Academy of Business Mastery. It's delivered online. There's workbooks, 9 workbooks that come with it. There's 49 email attachments that we take people through, video training and systems and reviews and discussions of what you're implementing, not just assumptions that you're going to use it versus discussions about what you have used. And that's adding hundreds of thousands to net profit in businesses that are 700,000, a couple of mil in turnover. And having some awesome results. It's designed to set businesses up to run on autopilot, solve staff problems, all the different problems that you have in business. So that's my premier training. Then I have half-day ones. I have one-day one-day courses. So like winning sales with integrity, that's a one-day sales training that I run online. And because I'm delivering online, I can deliver it to any country of the world, put it into people into small groups. They just log in, video conference platform so we can see each other and talk about it. It's not a lecture. It's not a webinar where I talk all the time. It is a discussion around everything that I'm giving people all the time. And because they're getting a workbook, they read, they review, they learn as an outcome of all the training that I do as well.
Incredible. And with your premium program, is it as accessible from England and many other parts of the world, or it's only around Australia?
No, it's accessible from the world. I'm just starting to get into international delivery, but I've been delivering online for 4 years now, I think, and people all across Australia have been joining in and loving it. And it's amazing the synergy you get from people, even though they're not living in each other's same city, how much they contribute to each other as part of the training as well, and completely unrelated businesses. I had a guy in insulation as a manufacturer with a 10 million turnover that got a lot of benefit from a guy that was in another state that was an electrical contractor with a $500,000 turnover, and he was getting ideas from this $500,000 tradie who was an electrical contractor, had nothing to do with manufacturing or insulation, yet he was just coming out with these great ideas every now and again. And that's what I mean. So yeah, I can deliver online, deliver it to anywhere in the world. I just mail the workbooks. And yeah, people log in same time every fortnight, and we go through the content, and yeah, anyone can join in.
Outstanding. And where can they find this information? Any special website?
Profittransformations.com. So profit transform with a 4 in the middle, 4 FOR. Instead of FOR, it's got a 4. So trans 4, number 4, MATIONS. Profittransformations.com. And that's the best idea. You can register there. It's got a lot of different information, lots of different information here and various different things that I run. So people can opt in for even just subscribe and then ask me questions if they like. They can call us direct if they like. There's different webinars. Once they're on the email database, I'll be sending webinar invitations that sometimes aren't hosted on that website. So sometimes it doesn't tell you about webinars that we're running. So it's best to opt in. So that's normally the first thing, is to come to a webinar and find out more about your business, or have a look at the website where it's got the one-day courses. It's even got a digital product training, which is 17 hours of video called Double Your Profits. And the people that buy that typically double or triple or quadruple their profits within months. And that's great for less than 3 employee businesses. It's ideal, actually. I built it for that purpose. So yeah, I've got lots of information and lots of things to share with people, and not all of it costs money. So yeah.
Incredible. I love what you've already shared with us today, and I can only imagine what you can do with businesses when they become one of your clients. In fact, one of the remarkable things which I noticed in you is you over-deliver, your willingness to add more value, and how are you doing that for people today where you are?
I just love giving people information for free. I meet people that are sometimes too small, and I say, that's all right, let's have a chat on the phone. And I said, look, it's in my interest to help you now, because in 6 months or 12 months, you might be a client for my 7-month training. So what are we going to do to get you there? And for a couple of people, it's been, well, do the sales training, and that'll increase your sales 20 to 50 or 300% in a month or two, as it has for so many other clients. So that's probably a good place to start. And it might be, well, I think you need to be looking at this strategy. This strategy, I think, would really work well for your industry, because I've worked with industries like yours before. So sometimes I just put them on to very specific things to help them where they're at, and then nurture them along. And then one day they become the client for my 7-month course. So it doesn't matter where they're at. I'm happy to help people with where they're at. Incredible.
Outstanding. And are there any tools, Tim, you recommend business owners, to use, maybe a couple before we end our interview today?
It's probably a bit different wherever you are in the world. Depends on the industry too. Like service businesses, there's a lot of online tools that are starting to pop up now, that I'm meeting a lot of tradies that are using some online tools, and like Workflow Max and things like that, time tracking apps and things like that. So if you've got a service business, you've got employees, you need to start tracking their time to see if you're actually making what you theoretically think you're making when you quote. So tracking your time and seeing actual costs and seeing true gross margins is critical. So things like that. Accounting systems, Xero is probably the best that I've seen at the moment. It's fantastic. It's online. So as far as those things sort of go, it's a little bit industry specific. Having a CRM, I use Zoho CRM. I find Zoho very good. So just having basic things like that. So it depends on the platform, depends on the industry. It is a fair bit industry specific as to what sort of online tools that you need. That's anything. And it depends on your marketing, like who your target market is. I'm B2B, so therefore LinkedIn's very good. But if you're B2C, I'd say Facebook's probably good for promotional advertising, things like that. So it just depends on the platform. I have a YouTube channel and I get 4,000 plus views a week, but it doesn't tend to generate leads for me. It gets a lot of subscribers, but not people that are looking to buy. So it's not working for me as far as a lead generator, but it certainly gets a lot of views, makes a lot of people happy because they're getting a lot of stuff for free. But so it just depends on the industry. And that's something it's a bit hard to generically say. When I talk one-on-one, then I can be extremely specific, but there's not a really generic one size fits all that some people like to think it does. Oh, Facebook suits every business. No, it doesn't. LinkedIn suits every business. No, it doesn't. I got clients turning over $3 or $5 million that don't even have a website. But everyone will say you have to have a website. So you can't say there's one size that kind of fits all. That's a bit of a myth, I think.
Incredible. And one of the things that we love here is giving back to the community, social responsibility. What are your thoughts as a business owner when it comes to that area?
I think a lot of business owners need to help themselves first.
Yes.
And I've always been a believer that business owners have the potential to make a very big difference to their community, but they're so drowning in busyness and cash flow and staff and time issues that they just can't. And that's one of the reasons I do what I do. They have the ability to make a very big difference, well, the potential is probably the word. They have the potential to, but they've got to get to that entrepreneurial phase where working is optional. Then you can do amazing things. But I am a big believer. I think they got the best capability to contribute to society through charities or through their own time. With time and money, that's the best way to contribute. Unfortunately, they're a little bit stuck with where they're at. But I think it's great. It's something I often ask clients myself. What are you going to do when your business doesn't run without you? You won't be bored, but what can you be doing? Where can you contribute back to society? And I think it's an important thing to think about.
Beautiful. Incredible. And any final thoughts to business owners there before we wrap up our interview today? Outstanding interview. So
wherever you are, it doesn't matter. That to me doesn't matter. What matters is your vision and where you're going. And I've worked with business owners that have been near bankrupt and turned them around. I've worked with people that are just starting and seen them accelerate and grow into very prosperous business owners over time. So I don't think it really matters where you are. So wherever you are and however tough you're doing it or however successful you are right now, what's the next phase? What's the next step? And what are you going to take to get there? I think that's all that really matters. So that's what I'd like to finish with.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Tim, for a great interview. And I'm sure all business owners in our audience have a much clearer understanding of the necessary skills they need in order to succeed. And if you're listening, I want to invite you to go check out Tim Stokes' website, which is www.profittransformations.com. The transformation has the number 4 for 4. So www.profittransformations.com. And again, Tim, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Shikai. Appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome. And for you, apply these things that, Tim has been talking about and, reach out to Tim if you've got any questions. And as you can tell from our conversation here that he would love to hear from you and help you move your business. The one thing I like about Tim is he creates a win-win situation. Your business grows. And he has a client, which is what business is all about. And we're here to help each other. And again, I'm Yokai Kachidori. Thanks for joining Enlightened Entrepreneurs. I invite you to check out the sponsors of this podcast, which is World Outsourcing Solutions, by visiting the website, www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Alternatively, send an email to support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com for any inquiries you may have. With that said, have a great day and live with passion. Have a great day, everyone.